There exist limitless opportunities in every industry. Where there is an open mind, there will always be a frontier. In the vast expanse of the cosmos, humanity has always sought to explore the unknown, to reach the stars, and to claim their place among the stars. Welcome to the next frontier, where you put your dreams of planet working, exploration, adventure, and more to life. Welcome to Starfield. In this boundless universe, survival is not enough. It's time to build your destiny among the stars. It's time to build a self-sustaining planet that will not only accrue unlimited wealth, but provide you with resources from across every single galaxy. Get ready to embark on an epic journey. During this video, I'm going to show you how to gather every single resource known to Starfield. Across this very, very large galaxy, I've managed to gather every resource just from 15 of the solar systems. There are over 100 of them, but with careful planning, you're able to get everything. Just to go over a few things in this video, because I know the video is very crazy. The top left and the bottom right are from beginning to end, the start and the end, once we get there, of my journey through building every single base that it took me. And the top right is every single planet I had to go countlessly to resource gather and see, okay, what does this planet have? Well, what does this planet have? And in the bottom left, you'll see my great use of the crafting station. In the middle, I go over some of the vendors. As you'll see, the vendors are something that you will use constantly. From resources you just can't find yet to little, other things that you might need for your base. I'm going to try to guide you through everything that I did in order to accomplish this feat. One of the biggest things that I can tell you is that helium-3 is by far the most important resource for every single solar system. In order to get all of the bases combined together, it took me a very long time to make sure that I had helium-3 importing and exporting to every base that needed it, so that I could eventually combine all of these different individual bases together. If you'll notice, just every base requires so much. So planning is really probably one of the hardest things to do for your bases. I know in the beginning I started out linking every single item to pretty chaotically to each other. I found in the end one of the better things to do for your base is to have a couple of resources and just send them to just one storage box nearby, instead of, if you'll notice in the top left, how I'm attaching every single one all the way over there. You have so much space that you can really do what you need to do without a build limit happening, and the resources are so abundant, especially with you gathering everything. I would recommend building a storage station next to like every 3 or 4 of the extractors, and then just link that storage station to like your main hub of 4 to 10. Four large storage things is enough to where you can craft pretty much anything you need. 10 would be good for a base that you're extracting something that's maybe rarer, so you really want to have that, but anything like iron or aluminum that you're just going to have so much of, I wouldn't recommend really trying to hoard that too much. And sometimes in the crafting, when you're moving from the different views. So like in the top left, how it's like that top-down view. When you move from the top-down view to your personal view, sometimes the game will just kind of lag out on you. And if you just do like a quick save and a quick load, that fixes that very easily. The vendors are not going to have a lot of what you need. They might have everything you need, but it will only come in one or two at a time. So if you're on PC especially, I would recommend just either set up a macro or find the item code for it and just give it to yourself. If you found it on the vendor, it's just however long you want to stand there and click wait over and over again. One of the main things that I did, and I'll put it on the screen now so that you can see what I'm talking about. I kept this list of where I had every resource. So if I ever needed to go back to it for any reason, I had that list available to me. This was a very helpful list. I know some of the resources are one-offs on planets. So like once you find a resource, just a quick Excel sheet is super easy. I'll put a link down below. I used someone else's for this. I can't remember whose it was now, but just any Excel sheet is super easy to use. And then another thing to do is, so even though I'm able to gather every single resource here, you don't need every single resource to craft everything in the game. I'm going to put something up on the screen here just to show you. One is just every resource that you need, and the other is kind of more broke down. What you need for what. Once I really got into this part of it, I was able to see that I'm not going to be able to put every single crafting station on one planet, just solely because the resources, I just can't put every resource importing to a planet. There's just too many. So what I had to do is I basically had to do like a tier system. I call it a tier system, where the first two, I think 20 of them, I'm able to get all of those on the first planet. But then the more exotic things required, I used just a whole separate base for them. And that also lets me kind of separate the exotic things from the non-exotics. So just having two manufacturing plants more or less is what I ended up doing. And that I felt like that worked out really well. You craft so much that you're able to export your crafts to your new plant, so you really have just tons and tons of resources to your use. So once you really kind of get the hang of it, it goes a lot quicker. You'll start to notice, especially in the top left and top right, that both are kind of further along. They're starting to look a little more organized, a little better. So one of the big things that I did was, if you get two solids or two gases or two liquids both going into the same outpost, or the import export, and a lot of times it'll kind of it might bring in your iron, but it won't bring in your cobalt, or it might bring in your helium but not your argon or something like that. So I noticed using two of the same wasn't very beneficial. It seems like one would kind of get lagged behind. But I did notice if you have a base where you can get a solid and a liquid, or a solid and a gas, or whatever, then bringing them together seemed to work really well. So I do start to double up on a few resources. I'm just going to go over a couple things real quick. There's no real good way to determine like what resource comes first through something, but the transport container, or the transfer container, if you have everything go through that at your final plant, you can see on the top left I'm starting to grab some things. If everything goes through the transfer container, then it doesn't matter how far back that resource is. As long as your, adamantite is somewhere in the chain, no matter how far back it is, as long as it will eventually hit that transfer container, then you can use it. And so that, I didn't really use the transfer container much for any other base except for the final bases where I was crafting everything automatically. The big resources, the ones that I would set forth together first, it's going to be aluminum, iron, nickel, and copper. It's insane how often I would look up and see that I have 10,000 aluminum, something like that, and then 20 minutes later I'm out and having to go find some more. So aluminum is definitely needed. Anytime you come across a base, if it has aluminum, I would say go ahead and put an extractor down. With that being said, if you go to a base specifically for something like a rare item, I would not recommend gathering everything else that's available to you. Just try to focus on getting every single item, because if the extractor is just running, you'll have so much, and it really takes it and makes it a lot more organized. So one of the biggest parts is, bottom left, I'm crafting nonstop. Just every time you're trying to build something, you see, oh, well, we need 2 more of this or 3 more of that. If every time you put up an outpost station, you put right next to it a crafting station, I promise you it is well worth your time. It costs almost no resources, and it is by far one of the most important things I did. Another thing with outposts, if you happen to be on a planet with aggro monsters or something like that, if you just jump up on the actual outpost, you can be safe there and free to build for the entire time. Most animals are not going to get super aggressive towards you unless you are actively hunting them. So as far as the settlements go, if you notice here in the middle, I'm actually killing some stuff right now. As far as the settlements go with needing defenses, this isn't Fallout 4. They're not going to be like, we need your help or something like that. It's if you're not there, your outpost is not attacked. From what I can gather, this is not, set in stone. I haven't contacted Bethesda to find out. But this, you only need one security robot at most to just defend you while you're there crafting. And even if there's heavy animals on the planet, then they kind of really leave you alone. Barding 5C, I noticed, was probably the most aggressive planet I visited as far as like spiders, these little fluffy things, just always attacking you. The biggest thing that I noticed would attack you more than anything would be other like enforcers. I noticed that sometimes once you kind of got set up, they might land after you land and kind of rush you. But if you're not there, then they're not attacking. So one of the things, being at a vendor, stuff can get expensive, but you're also going to have lots of resources. So I would recommend just kind of trading resource for resource at that. So once you get all of your resources together and kind of get a feel for what you're doing, you'll notice that some of the machines are going to require parts from other machines. So make sure when you're doing your loop, you have everything. So you'll have it run through so you'll go crafting, it'll be your supply to your transfer container. And then from your transfer container to the crafting station. And then from there, again, I go back to the transfer container. And then from the transfer container, I go to the warehouse storage items. it just really makes everything easy, not having to micromanage everything, just going through that transfer container. So in end, I think there's 45 separate resources. You only need 28 of them. I kind of went over that earlier, but that's just the number for that. And then one of kind of like the last tips, if you see, you know, bottom right, it's kind of getting chaotic. I'm kind of in a rush. But if you will use an Xbox controller for like placing things, it makes a huge difference. Just being able to use those thumbsticks, it's really wild. So with that, I'm just going to kind of leave you until the end of the video. If you want to see just like what it is in the end, you can skip to the last, I think, 3 to 4 minutes of the video, and I have my final base set up. I had 2 bases, and they're really awesome and self-sufficient. Even if you do nothing else and just skip to the end, you know, I really appreciate it, and I hope that this is helpful. I hope that this provides you with something that no one else did, just being able to see everything and think, man, this is a lot of stuff. In total, from the start of my deciding to build a base to finishing at the end and saying, okay, time to edit video, it took me 20 hours. So that's 20 hours of gameplay, and I'm sure I didn't record some of it, so there may even, you know, maybe 22 hours. But it's a long process, but it was very rewarding. Now that I'm done and I have that, you know, list of where all the materials are, you know, in every playthrough I ever do, if I say, man, I need this rare resource, where is it? I know exactly where to go to get that resource, and I know how to build a base and transfer them all together, and it's very satisfying having all those ships come down and go out. And this was, you know, some people will say, you know, it's Starfield might not be a great game, but I think it's a wonderful game. I just had a whim to do this, and I had a wonderful time. This was 20 hours well spent. And you know, notice top left, like I'm deleting a base right now. Like I messed up. I had to delete some things, and like that stuff does not get frustrating. There are some systems I wish were easier. I wish that you could select all on the, you know, extractors and be like, hey, I want all of my, kind of like with the power. I'm glad the power doesn't require power lines like in Fallout 4, but I wish they did that with some of the other resources, where you could maybe tag a storage container for a certain resource. I think that would be really cool. So you don't have to connect everything, like in the bottom right. Right now, it looks like just a sea of red lasers. So I really enjoyed putting this together, and I know my only view will probably be my wife. So if she happens to watch this and hear it, I love you very much. And if anyone else happens to watch and hear, I hope you're having a great day, and God bless you. Have a good one.